Welcome back, my name is Ari and today's topic is hardware basics in 5 minutes. So the definition of hardware is basically saying all the physical parts that helping the devices to function. It comes down to your CPU, the speaker that you can hear music from, the screen that you can look into, and so much more. But due to today's video, we'll look at computer hardware for easier demonstration. There are 5 core components that ensure the computer works properly. It's the CPU, the motherboard, the RAM, the storage, and finally the power supply. We also have some additional hardware parts like input-output devices such as your mouse, your keyboard, speakers, monitors, your graphics card, and so on. But these are the extension for your quality of life, make your life easier. It's not the main part of the computers. Right, so the CPU is like the human's brain. It is the one that processes every information it receives. The CPU follows these 4 core steps only. It's to retrieve the instruction, decode the instruction, execute the instruction, and finally writing back the instruction. And it's going to write back to the register, the cache, and then the system memory. So it's like you're retrieving the coding knowledge from a class. That's where you retrieve. You are trying to understand the knowledge you gain. That's where you decoding the instruction like a CPU. Once you fully understand, then you implement the knowledge into your project or your homework. That's where you execute the instruction like a CPU. And finally, you will know how to do it later on because you are storing all those information inside your brain, just like the CPU writing back the result or the data back into the register, cache, or system memory. The motherboard is where all the CPUs, RAM, and storage lie. It is just like your physical body where you have your brain, your bones, your blood, and so much more exists inside your body. Each component on the motherboard that communicates through a lane, what we call a bus lane. So it's exactly like your human nervous system. So it's going to retrieve signals from input devices through the input-output ports. We also have multiple ports like USB A, B, or C, and through many steps of CPU processing, which follows the 4 core steps. It's going to present the results to output devices such as your monitor via display cables. We also have different types of display cable as well. But the USB port and display cable should have their own dedicated video to talk about. We'll continue with the presentation. Next up is the RAM and storage. Both of them have the same purpose, that's to write and store data. But CPUs can access RAM data much faster than storage due to the supported speed and the distance between the component and the CPU. Most modern computers, they're using DDR-SD RAM because it sends data 2 times synchronized with the CPU clock cycle. It's much faster than normal DRAM or SDRAM. DIMMs is a memory module for the RAM devices to sit on, and it's used for larger machines like desktop PC or server, whereas SODIMMs is used for a smaller device where space is finite. So storage also have different types as well, like we have hard disk drive like HDD, SSD, much faster than HDD, CD, DVD, USB thumb drives, and so on. However, one key factor differentiates itself from RAM is you can have internal external storage devices instead of having the RAM to sit inside the motherboard. You can have the storage device from outside or maybe inside. Another key thing to mention that to protect the data, your essential data from being erased or corrupted, is you need to know how to implement RAID configuration. So each RAID, it has its own strengths and weaknesses based on the convenience to install, the cost to build. Like RAID 0 and 1 can be configured with just 2 drives, whereas RAID 5, you need to have at least 3 drives. RAID 10 and 6 both need to have at least 4 drives to function. So finally, most important of all is the power supply unit, or we call PSU for short. Just like your body needs enough calories for daily activities, all the components inside your PC also needs to have enough wattage to be able to work. That's why it's so important to make sure the PSU is giving enough wattage by looking at the wattage capacity the PSU can provide. And you need to make sure that your power supply is outputting the correct amount of volts in each wire to prevent failure. And you can check that by using the measurement tools like the power supply checker. And you just need to follow the required volts like the table I presented. You can see we have 3.3 volts. It's going to tell you the measurement on the measurement tool as well. And there are also different types of PSU for you to choose, but it's only served as a convenience purpose only. Alright, that is for today in 5 minutes. Thank you for listening, and you have a wonderful day.